And I think that all comes down to an intention to let go, because you can hire someone to say, document all your processes. You can hire someone to do a complete reorg. You can hire that great right-hand man or woman to be your integrator. But if you don't want to let that go, and there's a lot going on psychologically, if you're afraid to let go, a lot of that just comes with some soul seeking and saying, hey, if I'm going to bring in these people to help me help the organization go further, I need to set them up for success. That starts with me.
Welcome to the Great Talent, Great Business Podcast, your go-to resource for building exceptional teams and thriving businesses. Each episode delivers actionable insights on harnessing offshore talent, integrating innovative technology, cultivating a vibrant company culture, and attracting and retaining top performers to drive sustainable growth. Subscribe now to never miss an episode. For more resources, visit greattalentpodcast.com, where you can download this episode's free worksheet designed to help you apply today's insight to your business. And now, here's your host, Rob Levin.
Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Chris Beer, founder of Wizard of Ops and renowned expert in coaching leaders to drive exceptional business results. Chris excels at aligning people and operations, often leveraging the entrepreneurial operating system, otherwise known as EOS, to bring clarity, accountability, and efficiency to organizations. Chris, it's great having you on the podcast. I'm so glad that we met on that panel a few years ago. Let's dive right in.
Let's do it. Thank you.
So when you start working with a client, why are they coming to you? What's the problem they think they're trying to solve? And I guess a part two of that question, is that different than the real problem that they're truly facing?
It's 100%. I'll skip to the second question. It's never when they call, it's never the stated problem. You always need to dive a little bit deeper and just be open to listening. But I would say that so often it comes down to either people issues or process issues. And more specifically with people issues, it's people not understanding what the expectations are of them and how to get there. I truly believe there are very few bad people in the world. There are very few deadbeats. There are people just don't understand what the definition of good is. And when you're able to understanding, things go a lot smoother.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. I myself, it took me years to realize this. I accused myself of being a drive-by delegator, just assuming that the stuff that was here, we'll actually get to that in a second. What is the problem that they think they have when they're coming to you?
Quite often it's addition instead of maybe just thinking of, have we put things in the right places? Have we put the right resources in the hands of people? So quite often it's I get a lot of calls, hey, Chris, I need to get an integrator, or I need to get a different integrator. That's one example. And quite often when I drill down, perhaps they need a different integrator or they need their first integrator where the visionary is sitting in that integrator seat. But quite often the real problem is that they're missing that visibility into role clarity. They're missing process documentation. You can't, if LMA is one of the key roles of the integrator, for example, if they don't have those clear boundaries, those clear expectations, it's really, really hard to manage a team if they don't know what they're accountable for.
Yeah. Chris, just so everybody's on the same page, please define integrator and LMA for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. So those are EOS terms, and again, entrepreneurial operating system. And a lot of my clients work with this framework. And an integrator is someone who partners with the visionary of the company. And visionary, let's think CEO. So the person with the big ideas, the person who's scanning the field and kind of doing research on the world and just thinking what's missing. That person often has some great strategic relationships. They have all of these things percolating, but they need the get it done guy or gal. And that's what the float above and between and all, in the entire organization, just getting everything to zip up and gel.
An LMA?
An LMA is leading, managing, and holding accountable. And so quite often we tend to think of those things as one action, but they're actually really quite different. And there's a lot that can be said in terms of empowering leaders versus just merely making them do stuff.
Yeah. So we're all on the same page here. At Work Better Now, I'm the visionary and my partner is the integrator. And I'll say that when I understood this visionary concept, I read after reading Traction, and of course, now that we've implemented it, it's changed my life and it's changed the business, allowing me to keep doing the visionary stuff and somebody else, in this case, my partner, really handling the operations and the management has just been extremely powerful for us. So just a quick note on that. So let's continue with this. Let's go into a little bit more detail. I'll ask this question two different ways. How can owners do a better job in terms of making their dreams come true, making their goals a reality? Or said another way, how can they take what's in their head and cascade that down through the organization? What's the way to do that?
Absolutely. And I think that all that you just asked comes down to an intention to let go, because you can do all of the things to start the brilliance and the great ideas and all that, but that readiness needs to be there. And that's described in the book Rocket Fuel, where you need to have the financial readiness and the emotional readiness. You need to want to give things up, because you can hire someone to, say, document all your processes. You can hire someone to do a complete reorg. You can hire that great right-hand man or woman to be your integrator. But if you don't want to let that go, and there's a lot going on with that want, right?
Right.
Psychologically, if you're afraid to let go, if you think that you're going to be put out to pasture when you let go, I think a lot of that just comes with some soul seeking and saying, hey, if I'm going to bring in these people to help me help the organization go further,
Right.
I need to set them up for success.
Right.
That starts with me.
You have the readiness in place, right? You're ready. What's the next step? And what are, I guess another way of asking this, is what are a lot of people missing?
So, in my opinion, what a lot of people are missing is an agreement to a certain way to run the company. So, an example that I give, and this is a funny little example, but growing up, my dad owned a tiny little car wash, and I used to do some slave labor there when I was 8 years old. And I would get paid, he'd slap down my $5 payment on Fridays. And instantly, he would also bring out the Monopoly board. And he would say, double or nothing. And I would say, sure. So we grew up with this lifelong love of this time together playing this game. And we had so much fun. So then when I met my husband, I said, let's play Monopoly. And the problem with that is that we had a different understanding of how to play the game. What happened is we were having a good old time. And then my husband landed on Go. And Rob, what happens when you land on Go in Monopoly?
You collect $200.
So I thought, apparently, according to the rule book, if you land directly on the Go square, you get $400.
So
didn't. Instead of fun ensuing, stop the game, let's pull out the rule book, let's disagree. I think that it's essential for a team to go far and to have a good time and have fun and accomplish more together. It's essential to establish what are the rules of the game. And that goes to the EOS framework. It can go to any business operating system. But essentially, what's our vision for this company? Why are we doing what we're doing? What makes us unique? Who are we serving? At the end of the day, like, what lights us on fire?
Right.
And then you can go down to the practical, tactical, okay, we're going to churn this many units in the next 90 days. But without shared understanding, and then also a tool set to move it forward. That's where I get really passionate. Again, the EOS framework is my tool of choice, but as long as you have tools to move that vision forward, I think that's what you really need to zone in on.
Yeah, and again, we run on EOS, and it's just been so powerful for us, especially being a remote organization with people in two different continents. It's enabled our growth without, falling on our face. It's been really powerful. I want to jump ahead to another topic here. What are your thoughts? Okay, so you're the visionary, you have an integrator, or the company together, you have the right blocks in place. What are your thoughts on compensation and incentives when it comes to getting teams aligned with company goals?
I'm a huge fan of transparency with numbers. I will have the caveat with transparency of numbers. You need to have the prereq of giving people an understanding of what those numbers mean. It's one thing to say, hey, Rob had a $10 million year, and have people think, oh, wow, he's driving home in a Brinks truck. It's essential to provide people with kind of that open book financials and then give them ways to enjoy the winnings, right? And I do think whenever possible, building in some sort of performance incentive up and down the scale, not just your revenue side of the house, but how can you incentivize all team members, not just leadership team members, to make an impact in the bottom line?
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Work Better Now, your trusted partner for getting high-performing talent from Latin America. Our clients tell us that partnering with Work Better Now has transformed their businesses by providing the proactive, reliable, and skilled professionals that they need to thrive. Ready to build your dream team? Visit workbetternow.com to schedule your consultation today. As a special thank you to listeners of the Great Talent, Great Business podcast, we're offering $150 off your first 3 months. Just mention Great Talent during your consult. Join the businesses building their dream teams and take the next step in transforming yours today. I've heard you talk about self-managing companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can leaders foster an environment where teams are really taking ownership of their role in the company and maybe even beyond?
So at the end of the day, you want freedom. I'll just say it in one way. You want freedom from your laptop on vacation. I think that is a hell that a lot of us live in. And the only way to have a freedom from your laptop on vacation or a self-managing company is to give your people the tools to succeed. So again, I'm going to be a broken record here in terms of process documentation, role clarity, having people understand what the definition of good is, giving them a way to measure that.
Yeah.
And then giving them those resources and then giving them space.
I like the idea of defining what success looks like. I think a lot of people skip that step. We were talking before we started recording here about Strategic Coach, and they have this very powerful tool called the impact filter, which can help with that. But that's being very clear. Is there something else that you need to do to get people to really have that ownership mentality? Does it start at the higher level? Is it something that you can nurture?
What popped in my mind right now is the book Unreasonable Hospitality. Did you read it?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, so it's a wonderful book about a restaurateur who turned a 2-star restaurant into one of the hottest places to be. And the reason why it was one of the hottest places to be is because of the experience that both the front of the house and the back of the house delivered. And he went out of his way to take 2 teams. So if you've ever worked in restaurants, front of the house and the back of the house can be very siloed. And thinking about how can these teams get connected to one goal and how can they almost gamify examples of little ways, little wins to move that vision forward. So in his example, and this is back when they had paid parking meters where you'd pay with quarters. But when someone would come into the restaurant, they would ask how you got here. Oh, I drove my car. It's over on 57th Street. Great. Give me the license plate. I'll take care of it so you don't have to get up during dinner. And that kind of thing would be spread throughout the entire team. It was a way just to think beyond the numbers, because the first thing that I mentioned were all very cut and dry, right? Did you achieve your numbers? Did you do what you're supposed to do? Check. Did you stay out of trouble? These are opportunities to go above and beyond. And quite often those opportunities to go above and beyond and really wow your customer, those can come, that comes from everywhere in the organization.
Right. Yeah. We introduced this concept a few years ago of wow experiences, how we want to deliver them to everybody, to our talent, to our clients, to our partners, to our vendors. And one of the things we said is, isn't it fun to wow people? It actually makes things more fun, and we empower people to do what it takes to wow people. And it's a really powerful thing.
That's the premise of, I think, just having that shared joy and feeling like you're part of a team. I'm working with a team right now that is a retail store. They've been around for 60 years. Of note, the average employee has been there for 11 and a half years. So they're retail. Exactly.
Wow.
I'm glad you caught that. So they're definitely doing something right. But I think that one of those things is everyone keeping an eye out for those, like what you said, the wow experiences. How can I do these little things that are for the greater good of the people we serve?
And I think it makes things more fun, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
you're going
actually
to go
fun.
home at the end of the day and say, you're just going to go home with a smile on your face because you put a smile on face on other people.
Exactly. You don't
Yeah.
stay in any job, retail or otherwise, for more than a couple years if it's not fun.
Yeah. So, Chris, I want to wrap up with this in just a few minutes. We've given people the mini playbook on how to have a successful self-managing company. Now, at the same time, you've worked with companies through transitions. A transition could be an owner watching this podcast or listening to the podcast and say, you know what, it's time. I want to start doing this. Let's call that a transition. What special strategies or tactics need to be employed through challenging times to get the organization through a transition of some sort?
So a couple things. I'm thinking of an example of, say, a company that's grown too fast and maybe gotten a little bit off its ways, where things seem, it's not the bike's going fast, but it's teetering. Or you can have a company that is all of a sudden they had been very profitable and all of a sudden poof, now they're struggling. I think in addition to just going back to basics and being willing to essentially scrap everything that you have and rebuild it the way that it needs to be built now, I think the single most important thing you can do as a leader is to take ownership of what is happening. So it's not pointing fingers.
Right.
And so it shows a couple things. It shows humility. No one's perfect. It's painful to go through times like this. So it's important to recognize that and also give as much security that you can that is truthful. So if you are truly in a dire turnaround situation and people are, oh my God, do I need to update my Indeed? What is happening here? Give them as much security as you can that again is truthful, and also point to the metrics that they can impact and they can monitor to feel that security.
That's really powerful. I have a friend going through a very nine-figure company going through something like this right now.
It's hard.
And he's doing much of what you said. Chris, this has been awesome. Where can people find out more about you and your company?
All right. So I live on the internet for everybody. I'm at wizardofops.net. But one of the things I'm most proud of is a YouTube channel that I've been building over the last couple of years. The handle is Wizard of Ops. And you will find all sorts of quick videos that just give my reflection on how to use EOS tools in a day-to-day basis in companies of all sizes. Because I think that all of these tools are a practice. And one little, if anyone's ever had a coach of any sort, just one little shift of your body, of your mindset can make such a difference. So I hope that those quick little, I call them little leadership bites, those quick videos will be helpful to someone out there.
That's awesome. Chris, thank you so much. This is a great episode. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks for listening. The Great Talent, Great Business podcast is brought to you by Work Better Now. Don't forget to review, subscribe, and download the worksheet for this episode at the link below. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on LinkedIn at Great Talent, Great Business or visit greattalentpodcast.com.